Revealed, how a heartwarming adoption transformed a CEO's life and uncovered 10B in 3 seconds. Jake's heart ached as he sipped his coffee at the diner, the scent of fresh pie mingling with the bittersweet memories of his parents. They were the kind of people everyone loved, their kindness wrapped around Maplewood like a warm blanket. He could almost hear his mother's laugh ringing out, see his father's firm hand offering help to anyone in need. It hurt. The emptiness of their absence felt like a thick fog, clinging to him day after day, weighing him down. But as he looked around the diner, laughter erupted from a booth brimming with friends. A small slice of warmth nestled within his sorrow. One day, an idea blossomed in his mind like a sunflower breaking through soil. Why not adopt a child? His parents had taught him the power of family, love, and second chances. The thought turned into a flame of courage that flickered brightly. It was a dream he held tightly but feared to chase until now. Then came Tommy, a spirited 8-year-old with wild hair and eyes full of stars. He had bounced through the foster system like a pinball, yet here he was, full of energy. His laughter was like magic. Jake felt a connection with him instantly. Every night they'd sit at the chalkboard, scribbling equations and dreams under dim light, sharing stories of trials and triumphs. Jake was in awe of Tommy's gift for math, not just numbers, but how to aspire and hope against all odds. In those quiet moments, Jake could feel the echoes of his parents' love in their wistful conversations, like warm whispers guiding them forward. "Pasta and meatballs, that's my favorite," Tommy said one evening, his face lighting up. They were getting ready for the town hall fundraiser. As they prepared dishes, excitement buzzed through Maplewood like electricity in the air. The night came alive under the sparkle of string lights, with laughter and love filling the room. As Jake helped Tommy tally donations using an old dusty calculator, Tommy's tiny fingers flipped pages of an old ledger he stumbled upon. "What's this?" he asked, his voice throaty with curiosity. The crowd began to gather, their chatter muffled by the suspense. Then it happened, astonishing discoveries mixed with mathematical wonder calculated faster than they could comprehend. An unearthing of hidden treasure. A business deal from Jake's father's past appeared to hold a staggering 10 billion value. Gasps echoed through the hall, disbelief pulsed in the air. Jake felt the weight of the room's stares, parents whispering, could he handle such a fortune? Could he balance family and fortune? Friends became wary, frowns replacing their previous smiles. Suddenly, questions of loyalty and worth echoed in the air, swirling with uncertainty. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake gripped the podium, the town hall filled with heated arguments, bartering respect for wealth. Doubts crept in. Could he be the right man to carry the legacy of love his parents instilled? A boy's future hung in the balance. As whispers echoed even louder, Jake's heart raced. How could he bridge the divide between fortune and family? What would he stand for in that moment? All eyes were glued to him. The state of their community rested on what he would choose to say next. His breath caught, and he felt light, like the soul of his parents was urging him on, quivering on the edge of truth. Jake's heart thundered in his chest, the weight of expectation palpable in the air. He could feel the gazes drilling into him, a tight knot forming in his stomach. The chatter diminished to a tense silence, growing heavy with impatience. Would he choose wealth or purpose? "Everyone," he began, voice wavering slightly, "this isn't just about money." The room shifted, confusion swirling. "You all know my parents. They believed in community, in giving back." He stole a glance at Tommy, perched on a chair beside him. Wide-eyed and earnest, the boy nodded slightly as if offering silent support. "They taught me that love brings more than just benefits, it nurtures hope." A wave of sentiment crashed over him, reminding him why he started this journey. "Tommy and we don't want this money to change who we are. We want it to help us lift this town, just like my parents would have wanted." Murmurs caught like wildfire, igniting debates. A bearded man shouted, "But that's a fortune. You could improve everything in Maplewood, make it shine." Others chimed in, eager to outline vast dreams of parks, schools, and community centers. As voices piled upon each other, Jake suddenly realized he was losing them. "Wait!" he called out, desperately trying to command attention. "What good is creating wealth if our family doesn't thrive together? This money could change lives, but it could also tear us apart." A woman from the back stood, her hands clenched. "Jake, we trust you. Don't squander this. Not merely on profits or success," he countered. "It should transform lives, bring families together. A legacy should not be defined solely by wealth, but by love and support. We could empower our community." He locked eyes with Tommy, who beamed at him. In that moment, Jake understood, it wasn't about the offer before them, but the bond they shared, the love that had already begun to forge a family. In a bold move, he pulled the ledger close, scanning for the next steps. "I propose that we use this discovery to create a fund, dedicated to helping families who need the love and nurturing my parents gave to me," he declared, passion igniting his spirit, grounding him. The crowd fell silent again, processing his words. Some faces softened, glimmers of understanding glowing amongst the skepticism. Tommy leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper, "Is that what you want?" Jake knelt, meeting the boy's gaze. "Yes, buddy. This is about us, about building a future together where love is at the center." Slowly, hands began to rise in the audience, voices turned from dissent to support. "Let us do it." One voice cried out, sparking nods and murmurs of agreement. Yet, just as he began to feel the tension ease, a deep voice from the back cut through the air again, "What's in it for us, Jake? Can you guarantee this isn't just a fairy tale?" Jake took a sharp breath, uncertainty flooding him once more. He could feel the gaze of the community weighing heavy on his shoulders. This was no longer simply about his decision, but a collective responsibility. He rose to his feet, ready to answer when a thought struck him like lightning. What if we turned this into a joint venture? Everyone here has a role, a story. Let's make it a dialogue, an effort of shared hearts. Just then, a commotion erupted at the door. A woman burst in, dripping with urgency, her eyes wild. "Jake! You need to see this. There's more to the story than you think." The room shifted once more, curiosity blending with apprehension. Suddenly, every face was alert, every heart beating faster, wondering what twist awaited. Jake felt a sudden chill crawl up his spine, destined to be at the center of another surprise. What had he gotten himself into now? Jake's breath caught in his throat, the urgency in the woman's voice pulling him from the warmth of camaraderie into a vortex of uncertainty. The room, once filled with hope and determination, now buzzed with anxious whispers, eyes darting between Jake and the newcomer. "What do you mean? What is going on?" he managed to ask, stepping toward her as Tommy clutched at his sleeve, confusion etched on the boy's face. "There's an envelope," the woman gasped, still catching her breath. "I found it at the old mill. It came from someone your parents knew. You need to see this, Jake." His heart raced again, curiosity battling against an instinctual jolt of fear. He met Tommy's wide eyes, brimming with questions and the same anxious energy that coursed through him. "Who are you?" someone in the crowd called out. All eyes turned to the woman, waiting for answers. "I'm Marissa," she replied, regaining composure. "I used to work with your mom at the community center before it closed. They left more than you know, Jake. This envelope, it's got information about your parents, about the legacy they wanted to create." Jake's mind raced. Legacy? Just as his plea for a shared future began to resonate within the community, the unexpected reality of his parents' hidden past threatened to upend everything. What kind of information? He pressed. Marissa stepped forward, holding out the worn envelope, the edges tattered as if it had been guarding a treasure for decades. It may contain a map, a blueprint of sorts. Your parents envisioned a bigger picture than anyone realized, something that could change Maplewood forever. Jake hesitated, the weight of everyone's eyes now pressing on him like the crushing force of a wave. I have to see this, he whispered, reaching out for the envelope. The moment his fingers brushed against the paper, a strange sensation coursed through him, as if he were grasping onto a piece of his parents' spirit. As he opened the envelope slowly, the rustle of the paper drew the attention of the room. Inside, a handwritten letter accompanied an old map, marked with symbols and circles, routes intertwining like the lives of those in Maplewood. Each mark pulsed with importance, each twist a new possibility. He scanned the letter, his heart thudding in disbelief. They wanted us to blend our dreams, they believed in the power of a united community, he read aloud, emotions tightening his throat. We can transform Maplewood into a sanctuary where families don't just survive but thrive. A ripple of energy swept through the crowd, rekindling the earlier passion. The doubts, the questions, all muted as hope soared. But Jake's excitement was soon eclipsed by overwhelming trepidation. The complexity of the task before him loomed large. Could he truly live up to what his parents envisioned? Jake, Tommy whispered, breaking into his thoughts. What if this is the chance? What if we really can do something amazing? Jake looked around, noticing the mixture of anticipation and fear on the faces surrounding him. Could they handle the weight of their combined dreams? Could they trust one another enough to keep that spirit of love and community alive? Tommy, this means we. Jake started, but was interrupted as another voice broke through the murmurs. A shadowy figure suddenly stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Jake. You think you can just take this on? You have no idea what's at stake. Jake's heart plummeted. Who was this person, and what did they know? In the flurry of emotions, he recognized the truth. There was more at play, threads woven through Maplewood that extended beyond his understanding. What lay ahead could reshape not just their community but Jake's fate. As fear throbbed beneath the surface, a question emerged, urging for answers. Who were his parents really? What had they left hidden, and would he be able to handle the revelations? With the weight of the envelope in one hand and Tommy's trusting gaze in the other, Jake realized he would need to dig deeper than ever before, or risk losing everything he'd sought to protect. Jake's eyes narrowed at the figure lurking in the shadows. The tension in the room thickened like fog rolling in over Maplewood. The stranger stepped forward, the dim light catching his sharp features. The crowd instinctively parted, forming a widening circle around Jake. I'm Marcus, the man declared, his voice low and filled with authority. And you, Jake, have no idea what you're getting into. Jake clenched his jaw, uncertainty wrapping around him like a heavy cloak. Was Marcus a friend or foe? What did he know about his parents? The envelope felt heavy in his hands, as if it were turning to stone. Maybe you should listen to your parents' mistakes instead of their dreams, Marcus continued, his tone unyielding. Maplewood has its secrets, and believing in some idealistic vision can be dangerous, and naive. Marissa stepped forward, positioning herself between Jake and Marcus. What are you talking about? Jake deserves to know the truth. We all do. Marcus rolled his eyes, dismissing her protest. The truth? Or your version of it? He pointed his finger at Jake. What if they lied about everything? What if they left behind more than hopes and dreams? There are people who protect their interests at any cost. Don't be another casualty, kid. An electric silence hung in the air, each person in the room processing Marcus's words. Jake felt a mix of anger and fear bubbling inside him. What do you know? He challenged, though his voice trembled. Why are you so intent on scaring us? Because, Marcus replied, lowering his voice as if to share a secret, this community isn't what it seems. The envelope? It's not just about a map or some vision. It leads to something much bigger, something buried deep in the past of this town. The people who guard those secrets won't let it go easily. Tommy moved closer to Jake, his expression torn between curiosity and concern. What does that mean for us? He whispered, clutching Jake's arm tightly. Jake took a deep breath, battling the waves of doubt that crashed against his resolve. It means we have to face this head-on. I want to know who my parents really were. If they believed in something, I have to believe in it too. He could feel Marissa's encouraging presence beside him. Let us not back down now, she said, her eyes steady on Jake. This is our home, and we deserve answers. A murmur of support rolled through the crowd, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the fear. Just then, Marcus seemed to sense the shift. He sneered, sharper than the chill in the air. You think hope will protect you? You're more connected to these secrets than you realize. Before Jake could respond, Marcus abruptly turned away, vanishing into the growing shadows of the room. The tension lingered like a storm cloud, yet the energy among the gathered townsfolk crackled with newfound determination. Let us take a closer look at that map, Marissa suggested, her voice lifting Jake's spirits. We need to understand what your parents envisioned. Jake nodded, urgency thrumming in his veins. As he unfurled the crinkled map, revealing intricate paths and locations that seemed to pulse with possibility, his heart raced. Where would it lead them, and was he ready for what he might uncover? As he traced a finger over the markings, a sense of purpose washed over him. But deep inside, doubts still lurked. Could they truly change the course of Maplewood? The only way to find out was to dive deeper into the unknown. We'll meet again tomorrow, Jake declared, his voice steady. We'll plan our next steps, together. But an unsettling thought gnawed at him. Would revealing the truth of his parents' legacy bring them the community they needed or unleash something far more sinister? With the weight of that question hanging over him, Jake knew a storm was brewing, and it was only just beginning. The next day dawned bright and warm, a stark contrast to the brewing storm inside Jake. The sun filtered through his bedroom window, illuminating the crumpled envelope on the bedside table. His parents' dreams felt closer than ever, yet just out of reach. He couldn't shake the feeling that the truth lay hidden behind layers of fear and guarded secrets. Jake arrived at the community center slightly ahead of the others, driven by an urgency burning in his chest. He paced the floor, glancing at the clock on the wall. Was he being reckless? He still felt raw from Marcus's words. They echoed in his mind, mingling with his own doubts. Just then, the door swung open, and Marissa rushed in, her face glowing with resolve. Did you think I wouldn't show? She teased, but Jake could see it was an act. He resisted a smile, knowing they were in this together. Soon, Tommy joined them, his expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. Okay, let us do this, Jake said, gesturing to the table laden with their gathered supplies, the map, notebooks, and some snacks. Time to strategize. They gathered around the table. The map stretched out before them, its lines twisting and turning like the tangled thoughts in Jake's mind. So, what do we have? Marissa asked, her finger tracing a route that led toward the northern woods, a place Jake had always associated with stories of adventure and mystery. I think this spot here is important, he said, pointing to a small mark on the map. If we follow this path, it could lead us to whatever it is my parents wanted us to find. But, what if Marcus was right? What if we're in over our heads? His voice dropped, a wave of uncertainty washing over him. Then we'll face it together, Tommy said, squeezing Jake's shoulder. We've come this far. There's no backing down now. The three of them exchanged nervous glances, each calculating the risks and rewards of uncovering what lay ahead. Jake took a deep breath and felt the warmth of his friend's support. Right, let us split up the tasks. Marissa, you research some of these locations. See if there are any connections to my parents. Tommy, why don't you look into any old records or town meetings related to the map? What about you? Marissa asked, tilting her head curiously. I'll go speak to some of the older townsfolk, he replied, hesitantly. They might have memories or stories that could lead us to the truth. Be careful, Jake. Not everyone is as friendly as they seem, Marissa warned, her eyes narrowing with concern. Jake nodded, a determination settling inside him. I have to do this. I can't let fear dictate my choices anymore. As they began to gather their materials, an idea struck Jake. Wait. What if we document everything? If we discover something big, we should be ready to share it with everyone. Great idea. Tommy replied, visibly excited. People will need to know the truth about Maplewood. As they wrapped up their meeting, an unexpected tension prickled the air, echoing the unease that hung over Maplewood. What if their search unearthed more chaos and heartbreak than they anticipated? The truth felt like both a promise and a threat. Leaving the community center, Jake felt the weight of 1,000 questions pressing down on him. He had no idea where this journey would take him or how it would change everything he thought he knew. What would happen when they pulled the threads of Maplewood's secrets? Would they bind the community together or fracture it irreparably? As he stepped outside, a chilling breeze whispered through the trees, an unsettling reminder that the storm Marcus had warned about was near. In that moment, Jake realized, uncovering the truth could cost him everything or provide him with the answers he so desperately sought. And as he began his quest, one lingering thought took root in his mind: was he truly prepared for whatever he might find? Jake stepped out into the sunlight, the warmth of the day brushing against his skin. But inside him, a tempest brewed, a whirlwind of anticipation and unease. The community center faded behind him as he navigated the familiar streets of Maplewood, but today felt different. Today, he was on a mission. As he walked, he replayed each word of his plan in his mind. Talking to the older townsfolk meant confronting not only memories but also the ghosts of unwelcome truths. Just the thought sent shivers down his spine. He needed a lead, something to solidify his resolve. He approached Mrs. Davidson's house first, the elderly woman known for her tales that danced between folklore and history. Knocking on the weathered door, Jake waited, the sound echoing softly in the quiet. A moment later, Mrs. Davidson appeared, her silver hair shining in the sunlight, face creased into a smile. Jake! What brings you here? Hi, Mrs. Davidson. I wanted to ask you about some things concerning my parents, he stuttered, suddenly feeling the weight of his own request. It wasn't just asking, it was hoping. Oh, your parents, she said, her smile fading slightly, replaced with a thoughtful frown. They were good people. Quiet, but good. What do you wish to know? They settled at her kitchen table, where the scent of freshly baked cookies lingered in the air, an inviting aroma that tugged at his heart. I've heard some stories about the northern woods, things they might have known, he finally said, avoiding her gaze. I'm trying to piece together what they were involved in. Mrs. Davidson leaned in, her eyes sharpening. The woods hold many secrets, Jake. She paused, her expression growing somber. Your parents were protective, especially about a certain area. Rumor has it, there were whispers of events that shook our town. What do you mean? He pressed, sensing the layers beneath her words. Many years ago, something happened, a tragedy, some say. Something they may have tried to bury. It's complicated, many stories twisted with time. You may not like what you find, she warned, her gaze piercing right through him. He could feel the heaviness of her words, like a weight pressing into his chest. I have to know, he insisted. I need to understand. She sighed, a deep, forlorn sound that resonated in the quiet kitchen. Your parents believed in protecting you from the darkness, Jake. When you dig mid the roots of Maplewood's past, be prepared for it to grow back ugly. Jake nodded. I can handle it. As he left her house, doubt twisted beneath his determination. Would he be strong enough to face the shadows? Would the truth shatter the memories he cherished? With a renewed urgency pulsing through his veins, he turned toward the northern woods. He could feel the tug of destiny pulling him in that direction. Each step quickened his heart rate, a rhythm that mirrored the tempest of questions dancing within him. Deeper into the woods he went, branches clawing at him like reminders of the past he was desperately trying to navigate. Shadows swirled through the trees, and the excitement mixed with fear, enveloping him like AFOG. As he reached the spot marked on the map, he stopped, breathless. Before him lay an old stone structure, half buried in the earth and vines, a place of history wrapped in silence. What had happened here? What was he about to uncover? With a tremor in his hands, Jake took a step closer, the air thick with anticipation and the weight of truth. This moment could change everything. Would he find answers, or would it just lead to more questions? And as he lifted his hand to touch the worn stone, a whisper of the wind seemed to echo, urging him forward, beckoning him to uncover whatever lay within. Jake's fingers brushed against the cold, worn stone, and a shiver raced through him. It felt alive, pulsating with the weight of countless untold stories trapped within its ancient embrace. He steadied himself, heart pounding, and took a deep breath. The air was thick and cool, rich with the scent of moss and decay, an unsettling reminder of the time that had passed. As he stepped closer, the remnants of the structure loomed like the shadow of a forgotten memory, its broken walls speaking of a once vibrant past. What secrets breathed here? What pain, loss, or even joy had been etched into these stones? Jake's mind raced, wrestling with his feelings. Was he really ready to unearth the buried tales of his family? He recalled Mrs. Davidson's warning. It was one thing to search for the past, it was another to face it. Yet that spark of determination ignited something deep within him. He had to know. He moved around the structure, scanning the walls for any sign of inscriptions or marks. The sun dipped lower in the sky, wrapping the woods in an orange glow, but Jake barely noticed. He felt himself drawn to the ground near the stones. Gnarled roots snaked around, and a dirt patch seemed oddly disturbed, displaced, perhaps. With a firm resolve, he crouched down, fingers digging into the soft earth. He scooped away dirt and debris, revealing what looked like a rusted metal box. His heart raced. This had to mean something. It could be a piece of the puzzle he sought. With a burst of adrenaline, he pulled the box free. It was heavy, worn, yet sturdy, and Jake felt a thrill ripple through him. He brushed off the dirt and examined the rusty latch, an emblem of the years that had passed. Would it open? He worked at it gently, feeling the creak of metal against corrosion. At last, it clicked. He paused, taking a deep breath. His pulse thundered in his ears as he lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of faded photographs and yellowed letters tied with fraying twine. As Jake shuffled through the contents, the images began to come alive, faces looking back at him captured in the moments of laughter and sorrow. One photograph particularly caught his attention, a smiling woman with kind eyes, holding a small child in her arms. His heart tightened, there was something achingly familiar about her. He reached for the letters, each one full of delicate looping handwriting, words spilling out like whispers from the past. As he read, memories surged, ghostly flashes of love, heartache, and community enveloped him. They told of struggles in Maplewood, of his parents' decisions, their protection born out of necessity, but it was one letter, tucked away in the corner, that froze him in place. It spoke of a choice made long ago. A choice that would explain everything he sought to understand. Reality warped around him as he grappled with the implications. How much did he really want to uncover? There was a tenderness mingled with overwhelming fear. Before he could collect his thoughts, a snap of a twig echoed through the woods. Jake's head whipped around, heart racing. Was someone else here? Who was there? He called out, gripping the box tighter. Silence hung thick in the air. The chill crept back in, and the shadows deepened, swirling around him like a dark cloud. What else was hidden in these woods? What was he really waking up? And as he stood frozen, torn between the pull of the past and the fear of the unknown, he knew one thing for sure, the truth was just beginning to unfold. But was Jake ready for what would come from uncovering it all? The forest seemed to hold its breath, silence pressing against Jake's ears like a heavy fog. Heart thudding, he stood with the rusted box cradled in his hands. The air felt electric, charged with potential, every nerve ending on high alert. As he peered deeper into the woods, shadows flickered between the trees, but he saw nothing. "Hello." He called again, a hint of unease in his voice. He half expected a deer or perhaps a lost hiker, but the only response was the rustling of leaves, whispering secrets he was not yet ready to hear. Shadows danced playfully, yet the darkness had grown colder, more oppressive. Jake drew a deep breath, hoping to steady his racing heart. His fingers brushed the letters again. He forced himself to look back down, to focus on the treasures they held. As he pored over the handwritten words, they ignited a swell of emotions. His family had faced hardships, and yet, through the pain, love had lived, had thrived, mutating into a survival instinct that echoed in each line. The photograph of the woman beckoned him like an old song, and he wondered if she could guide him to answers. Who was she? His grandmother? Or perhaps a family friend? Her warm smile made him yearn for connection, to hold her hand, to learn about the laughter that had once filled their home. Suddenly, the rustle intensified. Not a sound born of the wind. Something or someone was moving closer, an instinct urged him to act. Was it an animal or the specter of someone from his past? His pulse quickened again, raw fear cutting through the comfort of the letters. "Show yourself!" Jake shouted, a mix of defiance and vulnerability ringing in his voice. The words hung in the air, trembling, the challenge inviting whatever it was into view. He didn't know what he was expecting, but the uncertainty curled in his stomach, and then it happened. A figure slipped from the depths of the trees, cloaked in shadow. Jake's heart dropped as he realized it was a young girl, her wide eyes shimmering in the fading light. She stood still, hands clenched tight against her chest, uncertainty mirroring his own. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice soft, barely above a whisper. He lowered the box slightly, studying her. She couldn't have been older than 10, and something about the way she stared made him feel like he'd stepped into a childhood memory, the feeling of a shared secret, a moment of recognition wrapped in innocence. "I'm Jake," he replied, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The girl hesitated, glancing cautiously at the metal box before locking eyes with him again. "What are you doing here?" There was a mixture of curiosity and fear in her tone. I found something," he stammered, unable to explain fully. "I'm looking for answers about my family." Her gaze fell to the box, a flicker of understanding passing between them. For a moment, the air seemed to shift, weaving a bond of shared intrigue. "Sometimes the past doesn't want to be found," she murmured, her voice hauntingly wise for someone so young. Jake could only nod. Something in her words resonated with the fear that had gripped him. The truth could be a double-edged sword, slicing through facades and dreams. But what if it needs to be seen? He replied, punctuating the air with their collective uncertainty. Before she could answer, the light around them began to fade drastically, and with it came a pressing realization he wasn't just facing the past, he was plunging into something much deeper, more tangled than he had anticipated. Something darker. "Jake!" A voice called from the distance, echoing through the trees. His heart lurched. It was Mrs. Davidson. Her presence seeped into the atmosphere like a lifeline, yet he felt caught between two worlds, the innocence of the child before him and the urgent call of the woman who knew too much. "Should I go?" he whispered, glancing at the girl. Her eyes were filled with questions too big for her small frame. "Yes," she said, an unexpected firmness in her voice. "But don't forget." "What do you mean?" he pressed, but the girl was already stepping back into the shadows. Almost blending in with the very night itself. "Don't forget," she repeated, her voice drifting away, leaving Jake with a chill that gripped him tighter than before. How could he not forget? Fear tangling with curiosity left him on edge. As Mrs. Davidson approached, urgency in her steps, Jake felt the weight of the box growing heavy in his hands. What answers would come from unveiling the truth? And, more importantly, at what cost? Jake's breath caught as Mrs. Davidson hurried towards him, the crunch of twigs beneath her feet breaking the stillness of the forest. Her eyes darted toward the box, and he could sense the weight of her concern. "Jake! I've been looking all over for you," she exclaimed, her voice a strand of urgency woven through the twilight. "What are you doing out here?" "I found this," Jake began, motioning to the rusted box cradled in his arms, but words slipped away as he glanced back at the spot where the girl had stood. She was gone, vanished into the shadows like a fleeting dream. A pang of loss shot through him. Who was she? What did she mean when she said not to forget? "Jake." Mrs. Davidson pressed, pulling him back to the moment. He shifted uncomfortably. "I think I might have stumbled onto something important. Something about my family." The revelation weighed heavier on him, like a secret that longed to be uncovered. "What do you mean? What have you found?" she asked, stepping closer, her voice threading through his haze of fear and confusion that he hesitated once more, wrestling with the tangled emotions holding him hostage. "Letters, photos, there was a girl." Mrs. Davidson interrupted. "In the woods? Were you alone?" "No. I mean, I was, but there was a girl," he stammered. "She said something about the past not wanting to be found, and just when I was about to ask her more, she disappeared." Mrs. Davidson's brow furrowed as a flicker of unease crossed her face. "The past has a way of reaching out, but it can be dangerous, Jake." He felt a swell of frustration. He could sense she held a deeper understanding of this realm he had just begun to slip into. "I want to know. Don't you understand? There are pieces of my family history that are staring me down, and I can't turn my back on them." Silence settled between them, the air thick with unsaid words. Finally, Mrs. Davidson sighed. "All right. Let us find a place to sit and go through what you've uncovered." As they settled atop a fallen log, Jake carefully opened the box, the rusty creak echoing like a ghost returning to haunt him. The letters seemed to flutter in the cool breeze, eager to be read. He reached for the edges of one letter, feeling the crumbled paper against his fingertips. The words felt strangely alive, like they were holding more than just ink on a page. He began to read, slowly, letting the weight of the unknown seep into him. "Dear Mary," the letter began. The name struck a chord deep within him. He had heard his father whisper that name in troubled dreams. "You will always be my light." The words rolled off the page, emotions cascading through him as the story unfolded, tales of love, of sorrow, of a woman fighting for her place in a world that felt too heavy. With each sentence, more pieces of an unfamiliar puzzle slipped into view, and it started to feel less like reading words and more like hearing echoes of laughter from days long gone. Suddenly, Mrs. Davidson shifted her weight, sparking his attention. "The girl, did she look like anyone in your family?" The question hung heavy. "No," he hesitated, but then considered the smoothness of the girl's skin, her bright eyes familiar yet foreign. "Maybe she is a part of your story," Mrs. Davidson suggested, raising an eyebrow. "Things that go unexamined tend to resurface, sometimes in ways we least expect." He could only ponder her words. Curiosity knotted tighter with each unfinished thought. The shadows deepened around them, and he felt a shiver dance along his spine. Time was slipping, the box felt alive in his hands, a key to a door he wasn't sure he was ready to open. As he turned back to the letters, revelations screamed to be uncovered. What had the girl meant by not forgetting? "Jake!" Mrs. Davidson's voice cut through the tension, pulling him back. "We need to head back. This place doesn't feel right anymore." Nodding, he stood, the letters still whispering in his mind. The forest seemed to close in around them, shadows stretching out like fingers, intent on pulling him back to secrets he wasn't quite ready to face. What truths lay hidden, waiting for him to confront? And what would happen if the past turned out to be more frightening than he could ever imagine? Jake stood at the edge of the woods, holding the battered box close, heart racing with the weight of his discovery. The rusted latch felt cool against his fingers, but the warmth of possibility pulsed through him. The truth lingered, enticing and terrifying at the same time. Beside him, Mrs. Davidson glanced nervously into the trees. "We need to go, Jake. Now." Her voice trembled slightly, hinting at the unspoken fears that clawed at her. Silently obeying, he shoved the letters and photos back into the box and secured the lid, the noise echoing ominously in the encroaching dusk. As they retraced their steps, memories of his youthful nightmares flooded back, the whispers of Mary that had haunted his dreams, now intertwined with the mysterious girl. Only now, he grappled with the painfully vibrant realization that the past cast shadows over his present. His parents' secrets felt like a fragile chain binding him between worlds, a dance of love and darkness. Back at the community center, the energy-buzzed Tommy and Marissa were chatting, already captivated by the thought of their gathered dreams. He could see the hope painted on their faces like a warm glow breaking through the storm clouds. How could he shatter that with his tangled truths? Words seemed to hesitate at the back of his throat. Would sharing everything change them all? Jake. Tommy's greeting shattered the remnants of unease. Did you find anything? The brightness in the boy's eyes sliced through Jake's turmoil. He nodded, the weight of the box suddenly feeling heavier than it ever had before. Yeah, I did. But it's complicated. Marissa stepped forward, sensing the change in his demeanor. You look like you've seen a ghost. What's wrong? He hesitated, glancing sideways at Mrs. Davidson, who offered him an encouraging nod. She had warned him about the shadows, but maybe sharing was the only way through. I unearthed some letters. They talked about our family's past, some things that were hidden away. The chill in the room transformed into a palpable tension, curiosity etched on every face. What kind of things? Marissa pressed, leaning in closer. About my parents, and a girl I met in the woods, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She said sometimes the past doesn't want to be found. A moment of silence enveloped them, the weight of his words sinking in. What if uncovering these secrets only leads to more pain? He challenged, half to himself, the fear creeping back in and threatening to choke him. You can't carry your parents' burdens alone, Jake. Mrs. Davidson's voice was firm. If you share their story, perhaps it will make room for healing. The truth surged through him like a wave crashing onto the shore, and for the first time, he felt the raw force of vulnerability. He had spent so long trying to keep his parents' legacy wrapped in safety, but in doing so he had chained himself to their silence and echo of their fears. Then let us do it together, Tommy said, face alight with determination. It's our town too, right? We all belong here together. Jake's heart swelled, filled with gratitude for the fierce loyalty of his newfound family. You're right. If this is about building a community, then we all deserve to know the truth. Fingers trembling, he pulled the box from his bag, opening it slowly, each creak a sound of revelation. The photograph of the woman smiled up at him, urging him to share. He didn't just owe it to himself, he owed it to everyone, especially to the girl who had touched his heart. Okay. Let us go through it together, he announced, lifting the first letter. As the words spilled out, his voice steady, he began recounting tales of resilience, of dreams woven into the fabric of Maplewood, held together by love. Each letter unfurled stories of his parents' devotion, daring acts of kindness that had echoed through generations. He could feel their spirit weaving a warm blanket of acceptance around them all. The room enveloped them, murmurs of understanding rippling through the crowd. Stories of hardship transformed into the fire of community once more. Together, they would reshape the narrative, binding the threads of pain and love into a vibrant tapestry, one that would shimmer in the light of new beginnings. Jake felt the lingering shadows lift. As the last letter was shared and the room fell into a reflective silence, he knew, with every ounce of his heart, he made the right choice. Hope hung in the air like freshly woven silk, an unbreakable bond anchoring them. They would build a future, rich in love and truth, leaving behind the weight of secrets once buried. Amidst the quiet, Marissa broke the silence. You know, what you did today? It took courage. You reminded us all that we're in this together. Smiles spread throughout the room as they found strength in shared history, and in that moment, Jake felt radiant. As shadows retreated, Maplewood came alive once more, not shackled by the past but united in a shared dream. Jake knew the work ahead was immense. Each path forward would be met with challenges, but now he had a family to walk beside him. He could face the past, not as a ghost, but as a living truth driving him toward acceptance. Together, they would shine brighter than any buried fortune, with hope in their hearts and love as their compass. The future of Maplewood sparkled before them, real and within reach. And as he glanced at Tommy, their eyes met, a new promise forged between them. They were ready to embrace every moment, each heartbeat resonating with a shared spirit. Now was the time for action. And as the laughter and chatter filled the evening air, Jake knew it was just the beginning. He raised his voice once more, feeling the warmth of their journey ahead. "Let us start today." The shout echoed with purpose, transforming uncertainty into a triumphant anthem of rebirth. The walls of Maplewood whispered echoes of laughter, kindness, and love, waiting to flourish in the new light. This was only the beginning, where every heart had a role to play, and in each beat, they would remind one another of their incredible togetherness. And now, friends, it's your moment to join this journey with us. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to nourish the algorithm and spread this inspiration. Comment below with how you felt about this transformation, it truly matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of love, family, and unity in action. Be a true fan and show your support. Together, we'll create something remarkable.